Hey, George.
Hey, Wyatt. How are you, buddy?
Good, how you doing?
Great.
What are y'all doing out on a night like tonight?
It's not raining. That's a good thing right now, isn't it?
Well,
Good to see you.
we'll just seeing you. Hopefully we'll talk about whatever y'all want to talk about before 8 o'clock. So you know what plan.
Yeah,
I hope so.
where do you want to sit?
That's what you
Want to sit right there? Let me do it.
All right.
Hey, Wyatt, I just found some,
Yes,
these
ma'am.
guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Better
We met-
have.
That's right. Well, we met before.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be out here.
Oh, yeah, we got, I can't remember. We'll look y'all up.
Good. Yeah, great. How's it going over there?
Yeah, everything's quiet over there right now.
I have so many friends that live there.
Is that right?
John Charles. Built
Yeah,
there.
Jim.
Right, services there. Yeah, I was
Wait
at
a minute, today's
the
Thursday.
early stages of my
It's fine.
He says, come on around. So I had a Jeep.
What on? Let's sit on there.
There's a dairy farm.
Well, it was out of the way. And so we had a good time, just moved around, and he was visualizing the golf course that we were
Oh, there is.
because he'd already been there.
Sit in church.
But he was so excited about
I
doing
thought since
it.
Keith came and then you weren't gonna be here.
What's that?
And since Keith wasn't gonna, or was coming, you weren't gonna be here.
But
So
did it
was.
Yeah.
I was there home because it's easier to step it down, we can see where we're.
You know, there is that thing that's going on tonight that a lot of people are paying attention to. I guess I'll keep here. That's the first thing I did when I walked in. I was like, oh,
Well,
I was already.
I drove down there the other day, in behind Seals House. And goodness gracious, it had such a pretty. So goodness.
So, Bob,
Yeah.
so this is the ordinance right here. Section. It says a grading fund prepared by the
full circle. So when I first started, I was the only one
smooth
doing
grade
all of
transition
this.
on board the property. He gets his swale.
You know, besides John, Jonathan did his side, I did Drew's side.
That's us.
That's it.
And then as we started hiring everybody, I was like, well, I don't have to go to those anymore.
We're pretty much just, yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
mostly.
hello. So good to see you. My goodness.
Was.
Oh, man, I do too. Yeah, you know,
Gotta do whenever I'm home.
she sold my oldest son his first home.
Yeah.
And yours was done. That's how it was. Do you still?
How long did you live on,
Almost 20 years. Did a lot of that. Still, and I'm still at that.
well, that's where I met you. We went on the dock, on the street all the time.
I was around number 1 grade.
I'm gonna bring that to you.
Yeah. It was like I pulled up, I came to the top of the place, all the time. Started out as a home course.
Yeah? Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, going to.
It started out as a 9-hole course and then it evolved. So we joined it. I moved to Charlotte in 17. I got a nice promotion and a bonus check. And I took it out. Before Sue got out.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you did. Man, you're amazing.
Hey, How you doing tonight?
How are you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Wonderful.
Wyatt.
Yeah, Wyatt. I'm Andy. Met you this, yeah, the other day.
Good. Appreciate y'all being here.
Thanks for having us.
This is fine. That's good.
Why?
Yes, ma'am.
I think you have my brother.
Your brother-in-law?
Dale.
Oh, sure I know Dale. I've known Dale Page since I was 14 years old. Playing baseball. Oh, is that right? What's your last name? Oh. Anybody recognize me? That's unusual. You know, because Dale goes to church with me now. You're a son? Well, they're so big. How long you been here? Oh, okay. I sit up in the balcony, so nobody's seeing me.
We always
Hey,
say,
Linda.
if you're facing
On Saturday, we were over. Did you sell some land
Well,
over next to
that's what Dale said.
High School?
he done
Cut for some?
Oh, I didn't know that.
You saw that?
Oh.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, I don't care.
That's not too much fun. Open the thing.
Yeah.
First time, I went there twice, but the second time in 2000.
Good thing about
Appreciate that.
That's crazy. Didn't know we crunchy. Stop it.
If you don't have it, it's fine.
Nice meeting you with the face with a name. Hey, how you doing tonight? I'm Mike. All right, appreciate you coming up. Right. We're talking to them Friday. Impervious surface. Huh? Is that what you're doing tonight, or is that?
This was all the.
If she does, she'll laugh. No, she does. She does. She does. You know I'm
Huh?
Well, that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean we're gonna build it.
My desert operator's not but he will get the fence.
I worked for for 11 years. I worked for every new construction site. Neighbors started having
Yeah. Put it in, read it, put it in there.
Now on the main mountain open,
I already said it. All right. Good seeing you, Chris. Hey, Chief. All right, how's it going? Good. Good. You got that hotel yet?
We'll be next week.
Alice was telling me you found some guy with a rent a house too or something.
Over on Campus Regional.
Oh,
Around the corner.
there you go. Get you out of that hotel.
And walk.
Hey, you got good. Appreciate you being here tonight.
Well, what y'all gonna build? I'm gonna. Somebody stole one of the
Thank goodness for technology now. We've got GPS and we've got small jobs. So, I mean, go
Our garages,
Well, I brought the big ones up.
they're very back part of them, and every one of us.
My ophthalmologist keeps telling me to get bifocals, and I keep telling him no. Not gonna happen.
Sooner or later you will.
I know.
We're bringing friends.
You bring a friend.
And a fence.
We want a big one.
John, were you property wise?
No. My wife and I drove by Sunday.
4 trucks out.
Was there? What were they doing?
Wife drove by to go to the store.
She
She was at 4 trucks out here.
Yeah.
One of the persons said to me, she knew she was working for her. He used to be the manager.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't tell them how to do it. So the only thing I can think is they're gonna have to either. She went to the right, or they're gonna have to use this and get access on it. Gotcha. And you know, when they do these roads, they don't have to build in retention.
Yeah, I know. So what I'm saying is this train, natural drainage swales, where that height is. Every place you got more. Every single one of them. For some reason,
one hasn't been yeah, there were more just probably speaking out of the
Or you don't just get credit for attending. Bunch of hundreds.
How's your first couple of
Those builders behind you.
And I opened up a week. I figured out how to get this back up. I was actually afraid because I couldn't see the corners. I was looking for you. I was like, oh man, I messed it up. I should have tried that movie yet. I ended up pulling my flashlight. I was like, maybe that'll slow it down. I left it open. Get all of these things. No, it's just the way.
All righty, we'll go ahead and get started. I think that clock's wrong, plus everybody knows what's happening at 8 o'clock. So we'll go ahead and get started. If everybody's please rise, we'll do an invocation, and then we do have, we'll do the invocation first, Councilman Stephen Ayers.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today to take and just, just bless us as we take and do the business of the town. There's always difficult decisions, and we just hope that you would give us the wisdom to make those decisions and do the right thing for everybody that's here tonight and for the entire town of Stallings. Just hope that everybody will remain safe tonight and have safe travel out of here. In the most holy name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Thank you.
And then we have special guests tonight. Russ, you want to come up with your truth? And lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, but you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Russ Anderson. I'm one of the leaders of Troop 174 of St. Gabriel's in Charlotte.
I'm Nora.
I'm Dominette Sempra, the girls' den leader.
Thank you for having us. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you all, 174. Always a pleasure. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. First up is our public comments, and we have two people to speak. First up is Archie Wright.
I'll yield my time to Chris Ball.
Yield it to Chris Ball. Okay, Chris, if you get up there,
Sure.
Give us your name and address.
My name is Chris Ball. I live at 303 Chalet Lane in Vickery, Stallings. And I just had some comments that I want to try to get through quickly because I also know what the clock says. So Mayor Dunn, council members, staff, fellow Vickery residents, and neighborhood residents, thanks for the opportunity to address everybody this evening and to make a brief statement regarding the completion and closeout and status of the infrastructure development work in the Vickery subdivision. And I have a copy of this I can give to you.
I gave it to him.
In 2014, the Vickery site was a forested woodland. By the end of 2017, development work created new public utilities, 4 new roads, a multi-part storm management system, common open spaces, 55 half-acre single-family residential homes, concrete driveways, grassed yards, irrigation systems, street lighting, land and hardscape features such as patios, pools, fireplaces, sidewalks, and plantings. In short, there have been many, many great improvements to the Vickery site since 2014. But the fact is that Mayor Dunn and many of the members of the council and town staff members also know that significant roadway and stormwater management system corrective and remediation work remains to be performed before the infrastructure improvement scope can be deemed complete. We also know that this work must be done before the roads and stormwater management system can be considered complete by the town engineer, before the required maintenance bonds are submitted from the developer, before the infrastructure can be dedicated and accepted by the town of Stallings, and then finally, before the developer's performance guarantee is relinquished. The development ordinances place direct responsibility for the inspection, acceptance of this work on the town of Stallings, the stormwater administrator, and the town engineer, both of whom are Mr. Christopher Easterly. It is my understanding that later in tonight's meeting, the Stormwater Management Committee may or may not report that Mr. Easterly is in the process of preparing and transmitting a corrective action and/or punch list to the developer. I've also understood that it will be simple instruction advising the developer to complete the work in accordance with the permitted design. With all due respect, and specifically noting that Vickery is now a fully homeowner-occupied development, it is my opinion, and that of the Vickery HOA and the impacted residents, that Mr. Easterly's corrective action and punch list communications must be fully vetted by the Vickery HOA and homeowners regarding detail and line item scope. Property access plans and timing of the work to be performed on and around properties no longer owned by the developer. With the property ownership change, it is critical that the town of Stallings' corrective action punch list be provided to, reviewed, and approved by the Vickery HOA and the individual homeowners before Mr. Easterly transmits to the developer, and likewise before the work can be scheduled to be accessed by and performed on property owned by others. As we have to date, the Vickery HOA and impacted homeowners will absolutely assist Town of Stallings in any and every way that we can. But we must insist that this inspection and closeout effort be a team process. We are all involved and we can all claim success if we work it together. I close with this and ask that my comments be incorporated in the official meeting minutes. Thank you. And I have some hard copies.
Yeah, if you could give a copy of it. Thank you, Chris.
Yes.
All righty, did anybody else want to speak in public comments? This is just, Peggy, you signed up to speak, during the True Homes. Do you want to speak now or during the True Homes public hearing? You probably want to speak now.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and residents. My name is Margaret Henderson, 137 Dunraven Court in Stallings. This is my address. Considering the recent opposition expressed by the public to the multifamily large developments, along with the results of the town council election, are there any plans to revisit the comprehensive land use plan or the small area plans? If so, we would like to see more of a committee of citizens advising in new plans. I would especially like to see the town take more of an interest in the irreplaceable wildlands and watersheds. I would like to see a professional study of risks to watersheds taken into account before any changes are considered. I'm aware that the city of New York and also Boston, their water comes up through a lot of land, and the water is cleaned by this by Mother Nature. So that's something we, would be wise to think about as well. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Peggy. Anybody else that didn't sign up want to speak in public comment? All right, we'll move over to our consent agenda. We have the minutes from 11/12/19, the closed session minutes from 11/12/19, and then the regular minutes on 11/25/19. Are there any amendments, additions to these minutes? All right, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Mr. Henderson, second. What is that? Henderson. Oh, okay. Motion by Mr. Richardson, second by Ms. Baxton, all in favor? Yes, unanimous, thank you. Sorry about that, Brad. All right, reports. Today, I'm glad we got a good crowd here today. Mr. Richardson and Ms. Paxton and I, with the town manager, met with the Silver Line people with the CATS Silver Line that's proposed to come from Belmont all the way to Stallings, maybe the Indian Trail. So we met with them today, so it was very exciting to hear what they had to say, that this is the town of city of Charlotte has approved $50 million to get this thing started. There's certainly a lot more funding to be had, but they are in the process of starting their due diligence and doing the planning and doing land conservation to maintain the route. But just to let you know, in 5 years they should start construction on it. So I don't know how long it'll take to build. They didn't give us that number, but the other number that I like what I heard was I asked, I go to the airport every week, and so it takes me about 35, 45 minutes to get there. But on this the Silver Line, it'll take about an hour, which there will be a terminus spot at the airport that they'll have a people move taking you from the stop at the airport right into the terminal. So people that use the airport should be excited about that if you hear it in 10 years from now. So, Linda, anything you want to add to the meeting?
Just that there will be 28 stations along that route. It's 19 miles, I believe, from Stallings to the airport. And we got involved because we wanted it to cross the county line. There are definite preferred alternatives for the route that's in Mecklenburg County, but they have not determined the exact route that will be taken as it crosses the line. So they'll be working with our staff, with our council, and getting a lot of citizen input over the next few weeks, actually, about where this should go. And they want to have the stakeholders involved. Of course, it'll be Atrium for sure, because they are very much interested in the light rail coming and probably CEM. And there'll be public meetings, so I hope all of you will come out and hear what's being planned and help us make this happen.
All right, that's all I had, so I'll turn it over to Ms. Paxton. You have any report?
I do have a couple of things I wanted to mention. I went to the Union County Park Code meeting. Bjorn Hansen does a kind of a prep of all the Park Code delegates from Union County. That's the transportation planning organization prior to our meetings. And we had a meeting last Monday to do that. And one of the biggest things that came out of that is that there's right now a collaborative effort between Iredell County, Mecklenburg, and Union County to ask the CART Code to look at how funding is allocated for transit agencies within the Charlotte region. And what they've realized is that CATS has been utilizing all of the money from several pools, and Rock Hill had asked about looking at the funding formula because there is a federal formula that would give more money to these other counties. In fact, Union County would get a windfall of about $800,000 a year if the Park Code agrees to use the federal funding model rather than the one that's currently being used. And the TCC delegates, I believe, did hear a request at their meeting last week about that, and it'll be coming to CART Code soon for a decision. So you can know I'll be voting yes to have that funding formula changed to be more favorable to Union County. And the second thing I wanted to mention is I had opportunity to go to the Transportation Summit in Raleigh. This was a 2-day event last Wednesday and Thursday. And I'll have to say it's probably the most exciting thing I've done since I've been in elective office. The keynote speaker there was just fantastic. Some of the things he was telling us will just blow your mind. But the first thing, Secretary Trosden came in and he of course talked about the funding issues we have with our reliance on the gas tax. And there is a commission set up called the North Carolina First, which is looking at new ways to fund roads and transportation vehicles in the state of North Carolina. And most likely they will be going to a vehicle miles traveled model and or other user-based fees, tolls for one thing. But I think they're looking at capturing the number of miles people travel and taxing you based on that more so than just the gas tax, which has been declining every year. But if you have an opportunity, and I did make copies of this for all of council, and some of you may want to do this in the audience, but Tony Seba has written a book called Clean Disruption. And as I said, his presentation was just mind-boggling, talking about the convergence of new technologies, batteries, artificial intelligence, and autonomous vehicles. And he had a slide that showed Fifth Avenue in New York in 1900. And at that time, all of the vehicles on Fifth Avenue were horse-drawn carriages. There was one car. In 13 years, by 1913, he had that same picture. And in that year, there was one horse. Everything else was cars. And he started his presentation just to show how rapidly things can change. And then he went on to make some predictions about what's going to be happening now. It sounded in some ways like an advertisement for electric vehicles, because he talked about how the electric car has 20 moving parts where a gas-powered vehicle has 2,000. An EV can last 500,000 miles. So you might get a car that you can keep 50 years, because the average person drives about 10,000 miles a year. But the other thing is that autonomous vehicles are 8.8 times safer than human-driven vehicles, because most of the accidents are due to human error. And he was saying by 2022, self-driving vehicles will be 10 times safer. I did have an opportunity to ride in a driverless taxi. It cruised around at 12 miles an hour, so but I mean it can go faster, obviously. But and then the other thing I didn't get to do, but they did have on display the passenger drone, which was quite an interesting vehicle. They did a demonstration of it the day before I got there, so I hate I missed that. But they're looking at, actually CVS is already doing deliveries, prescription deliveries by drone. And at some point they will be possibly harvesting organs when somebody is an organ donor, and that they can get it to the recipient quicker. All of this new technology is just pervasive in all of the fields. Amazon just ordered 100,000 electric vehicles, and they'll have those on the road by 2024. And another company that I really wasn't familiar with, Waymo, has ordered 62,000 self-driving vehicles that will be part of their fleet. And of course, this is really attractive to commercial businesses who have fleets because of the lack of maintenance costs. It's so efficient to operate these, and they last so long. So there is a link on the YouTube channel for NCDOT Communications. It'd be well worth your time if you're interested at all in what's happening in transportation to go there and listen to Tony Seba's presentation. I loved it. It was right down my alley. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
As was alluded to earlier, stormwater met earlier this week, last week, sorry. Days are running together these days. And heard quite a few concerns from the folks in Victory. And the commission decided, or the committee decided to go ahead and push that punch list back to Chris with the updated item to have the developer build out as was approved. I think that was our best option at the time, but I anticipate revisiting as things progress there with the community. The public safety meetings, we have not had any in several months, but now with new chiefs in, we look forward to having a meeting later this month. So I think we've got an open spot or two on there, so if anyone's interested, by all means, we'd love to have you.
Thank you. Mr. Richard?
No report from that, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Short?
Two things. John and I met with the folks over at Vickery a week or so ago. Again, I'm losing track of days too, but not too long ago we went over on a rainy day and checked out the rain flow, the water flow through their properties, and came away with a very good first-hand knowledge of what's going on and what probably needs to be done to fix it. Let's see. Wyatt, Heather, and Stephen and I went up, and Alex went up to the Essentials of Municipal Government training the other day. For Wyatt and myself, it was probably more of a recurrent training, which is, I think, always good. We also had a good opportunity to network. In addition to learning new things, being refreshed with things, the networking, I think we met almost every Union County representative that was there, which I think is valuable to go and talk to. I've told folks all the time, we have a problem or an issue. It's not that we have to go create a wheel. Somebody else has probably dealt with a similar problem that we can probably go and learn from other folks. So I always think networking locally and around the state is a good thing. So I think it was a very successful day up in Kannapolis. That's it.
All right, thank you. Ms. Rose?
I don't have anything.
All right, Mr. Ayers?
Everything that I had, everybody's already touched on.
Yeah, but next time I'll start with you.
That's right. But I would just like to thank the existing members and mayor. It's been a slow December, but they certainly kicked it up January. Like they've already said, we've had several meetings, and folks have been very gracious with their time in helping the new folks kind of get acclimated to the new town council. So we appreciate it.
Two things that I wanted to also, since we've got a large crowd, the Atrium Hospital groundbreaking is the 23rd of this month. So y'all start seeing dirt being moved on the 23rd. So that's good. And then we also have our new police chief is here tonight with us, Mr. Dennis Frank. He's our new police chief, started on the 6th. So been here a week. So introduce yourself. Welcome him to Stallings. So appreciate it, Chief. All righty, let's get started on the agenda. The only thing I want to move is, I'd like to move number 7 to 3A. Is everybody all right with that? Yep, kind of party for 3A. Any other changes, deletions?
We want to move the fire funding model up a bit. Just to, I think that would be a fairly quick discussion, just to get the gentleman in here.
All right, we'll move that to 3B. All right, any other changes, added, additions? All right, can I get a motion to approve? All right, motion by Ms. Groom, second by Mr. Ayers, all in favor? And that's unanimous. All right, thank you. Alex, we've moved up the FCON discussion to 3A. And so what I did was, as the folks from Stevens Mill know that are here, we've been dealing with FCON for probably a year. I would imagine it's been going on a long time. And so, you know, they have their approval, but I just felt like it just was time for us to give an update. Mr. Bob Cochran sends me a lot of emails. I know he copies y'all and keeps everybody up to date. But I wanted to hear from Alex and staff, whatever Chris Easterly is working on. So I just thought it was time to put it all on the record where we stand with the FCON project and how it affects Stevens Mill. So if we can kick it off there, Alex.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and public, hope everybody's doing well. So back at the end of 2018, the council approved the conditional zoning application for Epcon. Over there, my lawyers were in now in black. As part of that process, Epcon submitted various plans for permitting. And one of the issues, several of the citizens have brought up has been a retaining wall that's been proposed for the corridor along the Stevens Mill subdivision boundary. The height of the wall ranges from about a half a foot to about 8 feet in range. Additionally, another concern has been the slope of the Epcon homes from the wall up to the pad of the buildings. That's been a fairly steep slope. So the review's ongoing, but the question I think Mr. Cochran raised was condition number 7, which is regard to a grading plan, making sure you have both positive drainage characteristics and smooth grade transitions. And he made a number of points. And so as staff, we wanted to be very careful of how we interpret this. We wanted to make sure we got to interpretation that we felt was correct, and wasn't something that was done without a lot of effort and thought, because we recognize as we make these kind of decisions, they have a lot of effect on folks that are out there. It's just something we took very seriously. And so we got the grading plan for that time last Wednesday or last Thursday, reviewed it, and we also talked with the author of the language to get his take. And what we determined was that the slope of the Epcon homes from the wall up to the range was too much. There wasn't a smooth grade transition, if you will. And so we've asked that Epcon go back and submit a new grading plan that would be more in line with the condition number 7. However, consulting with him and everyone and talking to him, we felt that the retaining wall in and of itself wasn't something that was unlawful under the conditions. We felt like we determined that was unlawful. Any kind of disturbance, whether it's leaving stormwater for a road or anything like that, we thought that might have lied that quickly becomes unsustainable. So in short, we determined that they need to regrade part of their lot, but that the retaining wall itself wasn't allowed. So happy to answer any questions, talk through any of this if you'd like.
Well, from talking to, Bob and some of the residents of Steve, I think that's what they wanted. We all knew that a wall was going to be there, and some sort. I think we're okay with that. The grading plan was just the abrupt change in the elevation was what they're concerned about. So when do you think they'll have a new grading plan?
That's a good question. We let Epcon know. I think we made this determination on Friday. We let them know on Friday as well. So as far as I know, we haven't received a response from Epcon yet. So as soon as we get one back, we'll certainly let you know.
All right. As soon as we get the grading plan, we'll make it. It'll be on our website. We'll give it to Mr. Cochran. I'll send it out to Heather and Julie and anybody else. And I already have their email address. I'll make sure y'all get a copy of it. And I'm sure David will too, since it's his district. And so just to make sure this grading plan meets our code and is satisfactory to the Stevens residents. That's what we're talking about. All right. Any questions for Alex?
Did I understand him to say that the wall was okay, the new proposal of the wall? It's the grading that's the issue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just, I don't hear the death, so.
Well, there he is right there, the devil.
They've already done it.
Did it really? E45 on it.
I moved it up.
Can you play the tape for Bob?
Julian wanted to make sure he didn't miss the kickoff, so I'll blame it on him. Did you get a copy? We'll give you a copy of this memo that Alex wrote.
Yeah, okay.
I know it's unusual, but do you have any comments?
Really, I'm just waiting to see what was, if there are any conclusions made.
Well, EPCON's going to be providing a new grading plan, so the elevation change is too abrupt and it doesn't meet our code, so we're needing a new grading plan. As soon as I get it, I'll get it to you and you get it to your neighbors. And
All right.
all right, thank you, Bob.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. I was looking to see if there was any cancellation or anything.
All righty.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Next up is our fire funding model discussion. And we have with us a guest here from the Assistant Town Manager, Patrick
Nyland.
Nyler.
Nyland.
Nyland?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you being here tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
If you want to just bear with us a second while they clear out, so make sure we don't miss anything. Thank you.
Thank you all for having me here tonight. Yes, my name is Patrick Nyland. I'm the Assistant County Manager. I've been the Assistant County Manager since April of 2019. Prior to that, I was the Town Manager for the Town of Wingate for 8 years. So I've been on both sides of this funding model, the municipal and the county. There are two ways that fire departments are funded currently in Union County. There are fee districts and then there are tax districts. Within tax districts, there are two ways to establish tax districts. There are Chapter 69 districts and Article 153 districts. Article 153 are districts that are established by the Board of Commissioners. Mineral Springs, Waxhaw, those are Article 153 districts. Stallings and Hemby Bridge are Chapter 69 districts. Those, at some point, were a vote of the people. It was a referendum to establish those fire service districts. The fee districts are capped for $100 for a residential property and $200 for a commercial property. About 5 years ago, those fees stopped being enough to support the fire departments that they were supporting. At that time, the county started subsidizing those fee districts to meet the demands of those departments. At the time, the Board of Commissioners started talking to say the fee structure no longer provides enough funding, so what else can we do? 98 out of 100 counties use the tax model. It's a method that's proven, it's a method that works. The town of Stallings has property in 3 separate fire service areas: Hemby Bridge, Stallings, and Providence Rural. I'm going to go through my slideshow very, very quickly because I am aware of the time as well. In March 2019, the board made a determination that an 80-20 model, and what we're calling an 80-20 model is 80% of the budget for the fire department would come out of the district and 20% would come out of the countywide subsidy. This is a way to establish the tax districts that historically had not gotten anything from the county. They were funded 100% by the district that represented them. The board decided that in order to kind of spread the wealth, we were going to support every department within Union County. April 2019 to June 2019, most of the management team was new to their roles, so we went out, we met with the fire departments, we got to know them a little bit better, we learned about their long-term capital needs, we sat down and really started to try to get an understanding of their needs and their financial concern. July 19, October 2019, we worked with Budget, Tax, and Finance to give our Board of County Commissioners the most accurate projections of what these tax districts would look like if they were in place today. On November 19th was our final presentation to the board before we reached out to the municipalities, and at that time, they gave their vote of approval to what we're calling an urban-rural model, and I'll go into that in a minute, what that means. Moving forward, the county cannot tax citizens of a town for fire service unless that town gives us permission to do so. Chapter 69, that wasn't required because that was a vote of the people. But the people gave the county the approval to tax the citizens. A lot of these tax districts historically have been originated with towns. The town of Waxhaw requested the Board of County Commissioners establish the Waxhaw Fire Service District because of some of those same reasons. The fire fee was no longer meeting the demands of that fire department. now that we've established that these tax districts are the preferred method, there's a process that we have to go through, the state statute that lays out how you actually have to implement these districts. One of those steps is municipal action. In order for us to charge your residents for fire service, you have to give us permission. Beyond that, there's a series of public hearings we have to have, and there's quite a good bit of public outreach that we have to do before we can establish these districts. The goal is to have these in place July 1, so they will take effect in the next fiscal year. These are the three, and I know they don't show up very well on the screen, so I'm going to try these out. So you may be asking the question, why does the town of Stallings need to do anything if we already have these tax districts in place? On your screen are the three service areas that provide service to the town of Stallings. Providence Rural is still a fee district. If you can see, in the very northern part of the Providence Rural, there are two kind of grayed out blocks. The pink area on these maps is the town of Stallings. So you have municipal limits inside that Providence Rural district. That is currently your only fee district, but it is a fee district. Moving on to Hemby Bridge and Stallings, those are existing tax districts. The Stallings district is not changing at all. The next slide I have is it's the last map in your packet there. When these Chapter 69 districts were originally established, there was a distance that you couldn't tax beyond that distance. Over time, as the fire service area grew, that distance never changed. So there are currently citizens in the Hemby Bridge Fire District that aren't paying for fire service. You literally have neighbors right next to each other. One is paying for the fire service and one is not paying for the fire service. So the only way to incorporate those citizens is to get municipal resolution. So what this would do is it would replace the Hemby Bridge 69 district with a Hemby Bridge 153 district. That would ensure that everybody in the Hemby Bridge district is paying for fire service. It would also eliminate the Providence Rural fee district and replace that with a Providence Rural tax district, so that everyone in the town of Stallings would be under a tax district. Yes, sir.
Excuse me for interrupting. Does that include the part of Stallings that's in Mecklenburg County?
No. So that's another issue I'll get to in just a moment. This is just a blow-up showing where the areas are. It's in the very northern section of Hemby Bridge and the very eastern section of Hemby Bridge. This is what we're calling the urban-rural model. So if you see the apartments at the top with shaded yellow, they have a certain commercial base and a certain value that we are saying are more urban departments than rural departments. Union County has always been a somewhat rural county, but it's grown up over the years. And as it's grown up, the needs of the fire departments have changed. As structures become bigger and big box stores move in, it just takes a higher level of fire service. So we are going to fund the urban model, the urban districts with a 20% subsidy, and the urban districts would get a 40% subsidy. Some of the reason for that is farmland in these rural departments is not taxed at full value. Typically, there's an 80% reduction in farmland. So what you have are very large rural districts that have very little value. So the Board of County Commissioners, and we support farmland and we try to do everything we can to help our farmers, said we're going to do a little bit more for the rural districts, and that's why the higher subsidy. So they would get a 40% subsidy from the county, and 60% of their budget would come from the district.
Has that already been approved by the commissioners?
That is their direction to us, yes, sir.
That's the direction, but it hasn't been approved yet.
These will not go into effect until July 1, 2020 with the new budget. It'll be set, these rates and these subsidies will be set as part of the budget process.
Right. Now, where's the subsidy money coming from?
It's if you see on your tax bill, there's a countywide fire tax.
Right.
Traditionally, the tax districts have not got any of that. That was the fee that was going to support the fee districts that can no longer generate the revenue on their own.
Right.
So that is where the 20% subsidy for Hemby Bridge and Stallings will also come from.
Well, the extra, what'd you say, 40%, or what was it, for the rural areas?
Yes, sir. It's a 20% for the urban and a 40% for the rural.
So how will that, the 40% subsidy to the rural affect Stallings rate?
Not a whole lot. Currently, there is a 0.0133 countywide tax. We're anticipating it going to a 0.0158, which is a quarter-cent increase. But as part of that, we are taking the air packs out of the department's budget. An air pack costs about $15,000 or $10,000 every time it needs replaced, and it's a 15-year replacement item. So you take a department the size of Stallings, they might need 50 packs in 1 year. That's a $500,000 expense that would impact the district's budget if we didn't take it out of the countywide fire. So what we're going to do is, knowing when those packs have to be replaced, we're going to build up a fund to when they come due, we have that money sitting aside so it won't impact the district budget. So you wouldn't see a 5-cent tax rate 1 year, jump to an 8-cent tax rate the next year, and then back down to a 5-cent tax rate. We're going to level fund that to be able to take care of those needs as they come up. So if you take that part of it out, it'd be a 0.0145, so 0.012, 1/10 of a penny higher than you're paying now.
Now, I know that's a small amount, but this is such a complex issue.
Sure.
We live in Stallings. We certainly want to help our neighbors, but they chose to live out in the rural area for a reason. And they've got water problems, just like we've all seen what's going on right now. They have fire district problems. So certainly, I want to keep our costs down to the lowest possible factor that we can.
Sure.
And I understand about the packs. We have to pay for them sooner or later, but I expect that to be done in the capital plan by the county commissioner. The money that we give them on the yearly basis is not happening. We're going to tax us on a special tax, raise the tax, just fund capital improvements. So that's what I would expect from them, how to fund that.
And I can certainly pass that along, sir.
Well, I've passed along to Pam, and it's just a complex issue. Every time you talk to a different commissioner, you get a different answer. And so I appreciate you being here tonight to try to get this issue.
Yeah, just Mr. Mann, can you help me just understand? I'm a little bit confused. I think I'm served by the Providence Fire District, perhaps?
Yes, sir.
I'm in the very tip of Stallings, which I think is the southernmost tip that's a fee-based district.
Yes.
Right, that's what you said. The balance of Stallings is a tax district?
The majority is, yes.
The majority is.
It's either in the Stallings Fire District or the Heavy Bridge, both of which are currently tax districts.
Okay. So the only fee district in Stallings is the one on the Weddington map?
The Providence, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Providence service map.
Which is actually
not very many homes.
Not very many homes, no.
And it's serviced by?
Westlake Chapel.
Yeah. So order of magnitude, what's the basis of the tax? Property value?
Property value, yes, sir.
And
so you take the total property value and then the department's budget, and whatever that comes out to is the tax rate. And Mayor, back to your point just real quickly, you have not been receiving, your citizens have not been receiving that 20% subsidy in the past. So that'll be an additional benefit you'll get as part of this that you haven't been getting in the past.
And what was the percentage? What was the cents on the 20%? 01 something?
The subsidy, the countywide subsidy part on the tax bill will be a 0.0158. That's across the board for everybody. Everybody in the county pays that.
Yeah, but that's the subsidy?
That's the subsidy. That's for the 40% for the rural departments and the 20% for the urban departments. That covers that whole subsidy. And the air pack replacement.
So our community hasn't been receiving that 20% subsidy in the past. Are you saying that the 2020 budget or the funding for our fire services is going to grow?
We have not received the fire department's budgets from the fire departments yet, so I can't say that for certain. Over the next 3 months, just like your town budget, we will receive proposals from Stallings and Heavy Bridge, along with the other 15 departments in the county. They come to county management, we review it, we talk to the Board of County Commissioners to find out what their desired level of funding is. And then whatever is presented in the budget document is what it ultimately establishes that tax rate for that fire service area.
So when we met with the chiefs and looked at a regional model, in order to meet the needs of Stallings today and Stallings growth in, say, the next 10 years, we'd actually greatly increase the budget and decrease the tax rate. I think it was a 25% drop or an increased budget for regional fire services. So, not putting on the spot, but what's in it for us to take this approach and further subsidize?
Well, this approach would get you a subsidy you haven't been receiving in the past. So those two departments, Stallings and Hemby Bridge, haven't received a dime from the county. Moving forward, they would start receiving that 20% subsidy. That is money that would not come out of the Hemby Bridge district or Stallings. Traditionally, you wouldn't pay that.
So we don't know if we're going to get increased services or increased tax rate.
And again, I don't know that the tax rate will increase. It depends on what the department's budget request would be at that time.
The county's already moved it to you said 0.1538?
That's just the subsidy. So the subsidy is a product of the total departmental budget for the county. So if the departmental budgets don't go up, that countywide rate wouldn't go up.
A lot of discussion today, just over water and everything else.
Sure.
The county has been throwing this part of the Board of Commissioners has been throwing this part of the county on the bus for this hypothetical Yadkin river system, but yet we're turning around and subsidizing the east part of the county with the tax dollars out of here. It's an interesting approach.
Well, I understand the concern, and like the mayor said, there's no real easy solution to this. We've been through this for, I think, the last 15 to 20 years to try to find a solution that makes everybody happy. There just isn't one out there that's going to make everyone happy. This is what we've come up with as the best solution moving forward. So let me play devil's advocate. If the board decides not to do anything, we can still tax Stallings Fire District, we can still tax Hemby Bridge Fire District. We just can't pick up those properties that aren't paying anything right now. So they will continue to not pay anything while the rest of your citizens will continue to pay. We would also not be able to tax Providence beyond what the fee generates. So it's really, the way I look at it for Stallings is a fairness. It gets everyone to the same model within your municipal limits.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, everybody understands that. We want everybody to be paying their share. We're just concerned about the regional model affects our rate compared to what's going to affect, the type of services we're going to get compared to the eastern part. So.
Yeah, and I don't want this step to be just one and done. I think if we take this step, it should be just an interim step towards figuring out what the bigger solution is.
Well, I think a regional model makes a lot of sense. I know Johnny Blood, Charlie Porter, and Junior Honeycutt have been talking about that. And I think the county is supportive in that effort. There's a lot of moving parts to that and a lot of things that need to happen. But you're right, this is a first step, because beyond this, there are service area lines that go right through the middle of a neighborhood where you have Hemby Bridge responding to one and Stallings responding to the other. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we need to sit down and look at these lines to draw them where they make the most amount of sense. In doing so, we need to make sure that that person's homeowner's insurance is not going to change, because this is all based on ISO ratings of that department. If you change a line and change that department, it's possible that homeowner's insurance will change too, and that's what we want to try to avoid if at all possible. So that gets back to the level of service. We are trying to ensure an equal level of service across this entire area. It's not just Stallings, it's Hemby Bridge and Lake Park and Indian Trail. All of these communities have similar fire needs, and they're very, very close. You go to the rural part, or the eastern part of the county, you have a town and a very large unincorporated part of the county. That doesn't happen because you have city limits that bump up against each other, you have city limits that go around each other. So it's just a little more complicated on the east than it is in the west.
But I'm just trying to figure out the math again. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah. So back on your slide, the Providence budget has no lines. It's not been decided. But the math is the approved budget of that fire district divided by the total valuation of the district is the tax rate, less a 20% subsidy of the county. Is that what I'm understanding? No?
Say that, well, Providence is a little bit different. So what we're doing with Providence is, since Wesley Chapel is the responding fire department,
right.
Wesley Chapel has a very, very large district outside of Providence. What we are saying is you're getting the same level of service that the Wesley Chapel service district is getting, so we're going to set it at the same rate as the Wesley Chapel. So that $13,000 per penny that it generates, that's money we are just giving to Wesley Chapel to provide service to the Providence area. So theirs is a little bit different because there isn't really a Providence fire department. It's serviced by an outside outside fire department. In Stallings and Henry Bridge, what you said is 100% correct.
Okay. So that hypothetical tax rate, I can't read that very well, by the way. But that's a hypothetical tax rate today.
If they were in place today, based on today's budget numbers.
And today's valuation. Okay, very good. There's more to come. Thank you for the information. That's really important.
I want to get back to David's question about the part of Stallings that's in Mecklenburg County.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I never got back to that.
And John was just showing me a map of a section of Shanamara that he thinks is not getting any service because they aren't in any district. So I need to understand that, but also I wanted to ask, I know years ago, the Mecklenburg side of Shanamara was still paying for police services in Mecklenburg County. And I wonder if there's not also something with regard to fire services that they pay, maybe you aren't aware of, because, I mean, we did take action to get that corrected because we have a police department that was policing those neighborhoods, and so they didn't need to be paying Mecklenburg County's unincorporated police tax any longer. Could there be a fire tax that they're paying that?
Not a dedicated fire tax. It's possible that they're paying a county tax that somehow is diverted to fire service. That I don't know. Union County does not have the authority to tax Mecklenburg County residents, even if they're in the town of Stallings. So none of these tax rates apply to any of those Mecklenburg County residents right now. In order to do that, I think it would take the town levy a special use district for fire that is specifically for those individuals that are in the town of Stallings but live in Mecklenburg County.
And you described that there were some properties that are paying no tax in Stallings. Where are those and why is that true?
So again, it goes back to how the district was originally founded. It was a vote of the people, and as a vote of the people, there was a map set out of that. That's what the people voted on to say, yes, we're going to provide fire to this area. As the service area has grown, and Henry Bridge Fire Department, fire service area has incorporated more land, the only way to incorporate those people right now is to go back for another referendum. There are a lot of moving parts to that. It's a fairly difficult process. So this essentially does the same thing, but the Board of County Commissioners would lay this new district over the existing Chapter 69 district.
But don't you think it's also important for people to understand? I'm sure the fire department would respond to those homes.
They do, yes, ma'am.
It's on fire, even though they're not in.
Yeah, and we are not trying to pull them out of protection. We're just trying to incorporate them in with what everyone else is paying.
Well, the two chiefs have asked us to, they couldn't make it in tonight.
Yes, sir.
So they've asked us to delay this to our next meeting.
Absolutely.
And it's such a complex issue, I certainly need more time to understand the request. Can you come back on the
27th?
27th?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Because I'd like for everybody to be in the same room making this decision.
Yep, I can absolutely do that.
Thanks for coming. I found it a lot more, I understand it a lot more now than I did.
And again, it's taken me 8 months to fully understand this, so I certainly understand. If there's any questions in the interim, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you for moving me up the agenda. I'm going to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Now, as far as, we need to understand what Mecklenburg County Stallings residents have fire protection.
They do, as you just said, right?
Henry Bridge and Stallings respond to those residents. I do not think they are paying anything to Mecklenburg County for service, though. It's about $31 million of value that's in the town of Stallings, but located in Mecklenburg County.
And we're positive they have
Protection? Yes.
If you look at the map, it's actually, I'm sure there's some in Shanamara and Beck, but there's Willowbrook, at the back of Willowbrook, bump up against the county line. It doesn't look like they're in the fire tax service district.
There's across the county line in Beck and Shanamara, there's, as I said, there's probably $31 million of property.
Yeah.
So, what would we need? What do we want to put on the future agenda to look into creating that special tax overlay?
Tell you what, I can meet with the county attorney over the next 2 weeks, and I can come back at that meeting with a more formal process of what it would take to implement that tax. Melanie, I know towns have the authority to create a special use district. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, or just wait till the next meeting to discuss it. Okay.
All right, any other questions for Patrick? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Look forward to
Good
seeing you
night.
again. All right, next up is Rio, oh, I'm gonna do All right, I'll reopen the public hearing for conditional zoning 19.09.01 with True Home. So, welcome, folks. Y'all want to? It says information from staff, but do we have any new information, Lynn, that you want to present? Or?
I don't recall if I did my staff presentation at the original meeting. If you all would like me just to give you guys an update, I can walk through that very briefly.
Yeah, let's do that, please.
This is a conditional zoning request. The applicant is True Homes. What they are requesting this evening is approval of a conditional zoning that will allow them to develop property for a 46-lot townhome subdivision. The property that we're talking about this evening is located off of Matthews Indian Trail Road, right near the intersection of Vicky Lane. The current owner of this property is Ricky Strong, and it's zoned SFR3, which is a single-family residential designation. And the current use of the property is single-family residential. The proposed setbacks of the project, they've got 21 feet on the front where the properties front Matthews Indian Trail Road. They're asking for 16 feet on interior streets with a 0-foot side yard setback. There's no setback between structures, and then 20 feet between buildings with a rear setback of 12 feet. The properties are right under 4 acres in size at 3.79 acres. Due to the traffic generated by this project, no TAA was required by the town or DOT. As is the procedure with a conditional zoning request, a community meeting was held on September the 18th. Again, this is just to give you an idea of where the property is located. As you can see, it fronts Matthews Indian Trail Road, and it backs up to properties that front Vicky Lane. We took some photographs just to give you an idea of the area and the property itself. The picture on the right is just a picture from the street from Matthews Indian Trail showing you the front of the property. That picture on the left is a shot of Marie Garris Drive from the front of the property as well. It's very near that intersection. The picture on the right is the photographer standing at Marie Garris. This town truck is actually parked in the driveway of the subject property. And on the left-hand side, you can see the property. There is the house that's located there that will have to be removed for the project. Again, this is just looking down Matthews Indian Trail Road from Marie Garris with the property on the right, and then just pictures of what the property looks like in its current condition. This is a shot of Marie Garris kind of looking up towards the bypass, which is very near this property. This is the current site plan that was submitted by the applicant. They did revise it a couple of times. This is the most current plan. They will be making a presentation and we'll go into more detail about the plan with you. But this shows those 46 proposed lots. The streets will have on-street parking. They will be alley-fed units where the parking and the garages in the rear of the structures. The houses that front, the lots that front Matthews Indian Trail, those houses will actually front Matthews Indian Trail with an alleyway in the rear. These are the proposed elevations that were submitted as part of the application that the applicant is presenting to you all this evening. Just to go over some of the requirements of the project. Tree save is 1.5% on this particular piece of property. Our ordinance has requirements for tree save based on overall acreage. This will require right around half an acre or 0.57 acres of open space. Buffers, there'll be a 30-foot buffer that will be required. We will be reviewing this as part of the permitting process. Street trees will also be required within the project, and then stormwater. This is something that always comes up. Typically with conditional zonings, the applicant will have to provide compliance with our post-construction ordinance when we go through that permitting process. Our land use plan shows this site as walkable activity center. Some of the uses that are identified as permitted uses there are restaurants, retail, professional offices. It also allows for townhomes, condos, and apartments. So in other words, multifamily attached and single-family attached housing. There is not a small area plan this property is a part of, so there's no small area plan compliance required. However, it is consistent with our comprehensive land use plan, which calls this property for single family attached with a density of approximately 11.61 units per acre. There are some parameters and forms established by the comp plan, which I've shared with you in the packet. It's on the right here. I won't go through those, but they do comply with all of that. Staff comments and the outstanding issues. There's, again, no TIA was required. Our development ordinance does require sidewalks on both sides of the street. That will have to be complied with. And then the development ordinance, we do want to note that there is a requirement that requires crawl spaces, and maximum building coverage for principal structures cannot exceed 30% of the lot area. So we just want to point that out. Our police department had no comments. The fire department just wants to ensure that streets meet minimum town standards, to ensure the width will allow for their emergency vehicles to access these properties. The schools that will provide this development will feed into is the Sun Valley cluster. We did reach out to Union County Public Schools and got comments back from Don Obram, which are included in your packet. He's provided you with the school numbers. Parks and Recreation had no comment on this property. And then Public Works, they are will have to go through, and I'm sure have started discussions with Union County Public Works on this. So that is to be determined. Again, the community meeting was held on October the 8th. Some concerns that were raised by residents that attended that meeting were the impact to their properties. They wanted to make sure that there was a fountain provided in the detention pond to minimize the effect of insects to their property. They also wanted to make sure that there was some sort of fence or wall provided along the property line where to join Vicky Lane. They asked specifically for some sort of an 8-foot wall or fence is what was requested. They also wanted to make sure that there was security during the construction phase. And then they also expressed concerns about the units possibly becoming rental. So all those were things that were discussed at that meeting. The planning board heard this on October the 15th. And at that time, they unanimously recommended denial of this project. Some of the things that were raised for reasons of denial or concern for the quality of the project as well as the density of the project and impact to the adjacent single-family residents on Vicky Lane. I want to point out that the community meeting was held on September 8th, not October. We've provided you a list of potential conditions if you all are interested in approving this project. I can hold off on going over those with you, Mr. Mayor. It's up to you. If you want me to walk through those now, I can, or I can wait until you are ready to make a motion.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant. Any questions for Lynn on what she's discussed? Thank you, Lynn. Oh, y'all just here. This time, come on now. We don't want to leave.
Thank you.
Trying to keep moving me back every time. Took it out so finally kicked me out.
Hello, Mayor, council members, staff, the community that came out. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. I'm going to go over the Fenwick Commons townhomes. I'm going to start by just kind of going over the same stuff that Linda is, a little bit of the project area and pointing out some stuff. I show right here a project area. I will apologize to everybody on the left side. I'm right-handed, so I'm probably going to point more to the right over here. This is our proposed area right here. Area here is Matthews and Each Road. We have approved townhomes on this side, which I'll have a bigger view up there. Single family here, commercial property to the north. Some of the things that have come up in community meetings with planning board as well as neighborhood meetings
and things that we kind of change over the site plan as we go. These are all rear load from private alleyways. The amenity area, which all has some more pictures you have. We've added a gazebo, park benches, vegetation trails, picnic area. In the back, next to the single family, that was a big concern. They wanted a fence. So we do have a vinyl fence as part of the conditions we have there. These are 4 cell units. As we'll show you, we did add a fountain to the pond that helps circulate the water, helps with mosquitoes and things like that. So like that was going on the pond there. When we get to the elevations, we've added front porches. Also took from vinyl siding to the hardy plank with the mix of brick and stone on the fronts. Interior roads will meet the 50-foot right-of-way that's on the town standards. Again, this kind of just shows you a little bit of what's out there consistently now. Here's our site, group townhomes. Here's the hospital right here. Kind of looking where you're at there. We are currently SFR3. We're requesting MU2. This kind of show you MU2 is right across the street. We're right here. It's kind of mixing that blend of how it's not too far out of what we're asking for here. Again, this is a future land use plan with everything just north of us. We're just a piece right across the street. Here's the townhomes that are approved right now through your future land use plan. We're right here on this side. Here's a rendering to give you an idea of what the end product will look like. Of course, I didn't use red. The main road come in. This will be a 50-foot right away. Alleyways along the back here. Trekking trail around the pond. We will have a fountain in the pond as well. The vinyl fence you can see will be all along the side here. Your vinyl fence. Gazebo area, open space will be along this area right there. This kind of shows you the gazebo area, freestanding structure with a roof, a little bit of open area that will be here. That's kind of what we have ideas in that area. This kind of shows you more of the pond. This is from Brano's. So you go out there, you got the park benches, the fountain in the middle, nice communal area to be. One that has some little bit older elevations, but here's the most updated elevations with the hardy plank, the big front porches along the fronts. As you can see, brick, hardy plank, or if it was just hardy plank, different colors that make them real standalone, not apartment like at all. They're individual houses, townhomes for sale there. So that'll be kind of the big ones that we have shown there for you. 2 to 3 bedrooms, 46 units, 12 to 1,300 square feet is what they're proposing here. This kind of gives you a hard look at what you saw earlier. This is the actual initial rezoning plan that you have here, and all the rest of the details showing up from there. The last one is just kind of wrapping it up, and hear that answer any questions you want. If you want to get back to any other slides you want to take another look at, I'd be more than happy to.
All right, thank you for being here tonight. Any questions for True Homes?
Can you flip back to the floor plans? Is that just a typical example?
That is a typical example of what they're here. We do that 12, 1,300, but the end user will have some, obviously they want different options that they will have different options.
So we are looking at, just to confirm here, we are looking at 2-story units.
2-story units, yes, sir.
Linda?
Can you flip back to the side that you had concessions?
Yeah.
Were those changes made after your meeting with the planning board, or is that changes you made after staff?
Staff, community meetings, and planning board. The big things for planning board is they wanted the amenity area, so you saw that kind of more detailed out with the gazebo and things like that. Community meeting, their big one is that fence, kind of separating the two. So that was the big one from there. Alleyways was more of a staff recommendation on that side. It's kind of part of your standards, so the alleyways were added with that time.
So with the planning board's comments that they denied it, concern about the quality of the project, what
There's probably more
aspects
of the architecture. We went from vinyl sidings to a hardy plank with the bigger front porches. So it's just a higher end townhome now than what it was shown before. And then the park area, which was just an open space to start with. We had the gazebo, the walking trail around the pond, things like that.
Price point change?
The price point isn't right there. There's townhomes that's ahead of us right across the street. It's really going to dictate that price point. Obviously, with the higher end finishes, that's going to change it, but really the neighborhood across the street is really going to set that point for what they can charge on the side as well.
So with your higher end finishes, you have a pretty good idea what the number is. Is it higher?
It would have to be higher, yes. There's no doubt you're having higher finishes, but the sales price will be higher.
That's what you're on ballpark it for us.
It will be in the mid 200s, would be my guess, 200 to $300,000 range.
All right, any other questions, Linda?
Well, I guess my biggest concern, particularly after we met with the light rail people today, is the fact that that corridor or the route has not been determined for where it's going to go after it crosses the line, but we know it's going to be somewhere very close to Matthews Indian Trail Road because that's the only way it can get to the hospital. So I think your project's a little bit premature in the sense that we really need to know and protect areas for the train to be able to come along that corridor somewhere, and I wish we knew where it was going to be, but right now we don't.
And with this project, it does require off-site work, so we have additional right-of-way we're dedicating at the fronts. Let's see if I can pull it in. So with that, there'll be a turn lane added from Union Repairs all the way down, as well as a 12-foot on the front side of this as well that has your 12-foot multi-use path, I think is what the town calls it. So there is more right-of-way being given, already dedicated during the project, and let's say you would have to go back and buy later, it's already being dedicated.
And what the width of that is?
It's usually about 12 foot for a turn lane. We're kind of splitting it in the middle, so it'll probably be 6 foot on our side, 6 foot on the opposite side.
Right.
Maybe a question for Glenn. I'm just, the approved townhomes across Matthews Indian Trail Road, could you talk about those? I'm not aware of those. Tell me more about that project and who's the builder, how many units, what is happening there, what stage of development is it in?
There was a project approved directly across the street, which falls into the Highway 74 Urban Road Bypass Small Area Plan. It went through the DA process and was approved. They have not submitted plans for permitting. I believe it was a 50, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say it was a 50, 60 unit townhome project. Very similar, alley fed, it does have a large green space in the middle. They have had to rework their entrance. DOT was going to require a turn lane for the project, and they didn't have enough room on their side of Matthews Indian Trail to provide that. So they have reworked their site plan, which they submitted to me today, and they're having to do their entrance up the rears. So they've had to change that plan a little bit. In terms of product, their architecture it had brick and stone on it. There were 3-story units. There's a large park in the middle. They had more amenity areas than the proposal that we're looking at right now. I'm trying to think of differences.
Higher price points?
I don't recall. I believe it was slightly. We asked them to do some things like some insurance monumentation. We asked for some streetscape along Matthews Indian Trail that included that large path, and they were going to do the tree wells and trees in it, lining Matthews Indian Trail Road. So those are things we negotiated with them through that DA process. So I don't know if that gives you an idea, but like I said, they're having to kind of rework that entrance, and then we're going to have to go back and make sure that the changes that they made still meet the DA that was approved by council. So that's where we are with that.
If I recall, one of the other things we really pushed hard for was we wanted the architecture enhanced to give it more of an upscale feel, and then we really pushed for additional vegetation to give it a community feel, something that'll add value kind of long term. I think that was the final factor that kind of helped us decide on that.
We spent a lot of time discussing architecture in that DA meeting, and adding a lot of landscaping, especially to the ends of buildings.
I asked last week how many units were going to be across the street, and I was told 90 or 92.
You could be right, Ms. Green.
Okay.
I just can't remember the number. Okay, 92.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify to get an idea of how many new residents were in that area.
Just one more quick question for you. the vinyl fence that goes around, can you describe it? Because I've been schooled on that there's different types of vinyl fences. And I mean, some of the folks that I talked to that live on Vicky Lane, they had actually, had this kind of vision of like a 6-foot white fence running in between. Is that kind of what is your, what is the plan there between the two?
When that condition was first brought up at the community meeting, I think what the intent was, the town has required this vinyl type fencing in a couple of developments. One of them was Park Meadows, and I believe another one was in the back of Chestnut subdivision where it was adjacent to that Mario's Pizza, that commercial area. The town actually put in a vinyl fence that kind of has a stone finish to it. There's a lot of different applications. Some of them are white, they look very nice. But I think our intent with asking them to do vinyl is that we did not want them to put in some type of fencing that would require a lot of maintenance. And that's something that the homeowners on Vicky Lane may have to be responsible for. We wanted to just make sure that what was put in was something that would remain, that it would keep looking nice, and that the homeowners wouldn't have to maintain it. But I think
with the homeowners have to maintain.
Well, if it's in your backyard, I thought the part that faces your home, we just wanted to make sure that we were doing something that would benefit.
And I guess the question was more specific as to what is actually planned to go in between these two homes. I mean, what does that fence look like? Do we know?
Well, I don't think at this point we do. I think that we can ask that, if you do all decide you want to approve it, you can condition that that fence be brought back either to staff for approval, or if you all would like to see it again, you can put that in as a condition once they've got to the point. But our intent is that it's a high quality vinyl fence similar to what's been approved in other projects in town.
All right, you want to go over your suggested conditions?
May I ask one question?
Yeah, right.
If the property owner, does he live on property, is he an investment, an owner who lives there, or is this an investment property that shares?
I'm not aware of
I don't know if he lives there, because I know there's some utility, like Connex trailers on there that they're storing stuff.
Is that not a home when they're not
Yeah, but I think it's, I don't think
it's,
yeah.
It's not a home that he resides in.
Yeah, no, I think it's a vacant house.
Mr. Sean owns other properties in town as well.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
We would recommend that the project be limited to townhomes at 40, because I need to change that. They've increased that to 46 lots. We would ask that the applicant or responsible party obtain all permits that are required by the town, any outside agencies, state agencies, and the submitted sketch plan must meet all the requirements established by those permitting agencies. We would also ask that the lot coverage and density be permitted for the concept plan submitted by the applicant. The appropriate road cross sections as identified by the road bypass small area plan be provided on that using the trail road, because one has been identified there. And as I stated earlier, that was being provided by the project across the street, and we just want to make sure that they match. That 8-foot vinyl privacy fence be placed along the eastern property line or adjacent to single-family properties located on Vicky Lane. The fence will be installed by True Homes and maintained by the Finland Commons Property Owners Association. We would also recommend that interior roads meet the 50-foot right-of-way requirement as required by town standards. That is just the public streets. The alleyways will be built to alley standards. That the architectural elements include hardy plank, brick or stone. That vinyl siding not be permitted as a main building material, but will be permitted as window and roof trim material only. The requirements established for single-family attached housing type for Article 9.3 of the Stallings Development Ordinance be met. Open space requirements be met according to Article 21 of the Development Ordinance. We would also require that porches extend to be more representative porches. Final building elevations will be approved by the planning board, and then a fountain will be provided in that wet pond. And that would be staff's recommendations. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address those.
I'd also take Dan's recommendation that the vinyl fence drawings be brought back to council for final decision. Similar to what we did at Mario's Pizza.
It just falls right outside the 74 corridor, small area.
That is correct. Did you want town council to approve that fence, or I didn't?
Yeah, put it in the suggestions, yeah, town council will approve. Well, it'll go to the planning board first, right?
Not necessarily. It's not a public hearing item, so it doesn't have to, unless you would like to word it that way.
Yeah, let's send it to the planning board first and then town council. Any other questions for Lynn?
Just, you don't mind, just one other question. I mean, obviously, this is first time I've seen a development that was effectively recommended and was denied. And obviously, that was back in October. I mean, in your own opinion, I mean, I know there's been ongoing discussions. Do you feel like, compared to when that meeting was held and the judgment that was passed there, I mean, has there been more work gone into this since that time period? Do you feel like the reason why it was denied unanimously was addressed? I guess this is the first time I've seen a denied unanimously, so that kind of weighs heavy on me to be
sure. And I appreciate that. I do think the applicant has worked on trying to address the concerns that the planning board raised. And I think one of the main things, that quality issue had a lot to do with the architecture. And I think the drawings here today, if we're approving it, I think we need to make sure that those architectural drawings on the top are what's attached to this approval and not the one on the bottom. I think that was a big part of planning board's reason for denying. Also at that time, I think the layout was different, and I don't think there were as many amenities or any amenities shown in the project when they originally showed it to the plan. So they have worked on trying to improve the plan. I think they've met with staff, and I think they've discussed this with a couple of council members, just trying to get feedback as to what can be done to improve the project.
Yeah, Stephen, they met with me last week, and I believe they've done everything the town's asked and the citizens have asked to this point right now. And I understand where Linda's coming from, because I was at the Silver Line today. But these men have put a lot of capital into this project, and I don't think it's going to prevent the Silver Line from coming near the hospital. So I like what they've done with this piece of property. I think it will enhance Vicky Lane area, not detract from there. You know, these will be 275 units, dollar units. So I think that would enhance the property values, not take away from them. So my thought is to approve this application based on the existing conditions there. Let me go ahead and close the public hearing, and then Council David.
One more question for Lynn.
Oh, yeah.
If this was across the street in the UDO small area plan, what would be different about it?
Well, like I said, I think they've addressed a lot of those concerns. I think it's a very small piece of land, it's 4 acres, so I'm not sure it'd be that much different. I think that they have done what we've asked them to do in terms of improving the architecture, improving the open space. We're asking that they match that road cross section, which we asked the other project to do as well, with the street trees and the sidewalk.
Okay.
And the street lights.
Related to that is that I did drive over there, and I know there's commercial on the north side, but is there any opportunity to assemble other parcels to make this site a little bit bigger?
It's always a possibility, yes. That would be something that a developer would have to come along and decide to do. I don't think the town could force that, but that's definitely a possibility. It's always a possibility.
I'm torn a little bit. I generally support development right areas, but this is kind of outside the area that we defined. I realize it's just across the street, but one of the things we talked about in the comprehensive land use plan was protecting existing neighborhoods. I realize this is an older neighborhood. At some point, it's probably going to be redeveloped, but it's now the right time to kick that off. I don't know that it is. With Silver Line coming in, there not being a ton in this development that, I guess that calls for it, or really makes me think of an exception. I have a hard time with this one.
Any other comments, any questions?
Just Mayor, the public meeting, tell me the timeline of the planning board's denial, the improvements made, any outreach to the community that attended the first public meeting to get a sense of what they believe now.
The community meeting was held on September the 8th. That was the very first meeting held. It was held in this room. The town sponsored it, but the applicant, it was their meeting to present their proposal to the joint property owners. From that meeting, they took information back. I think they tweaked their plan some. And then the next step was the planning board, which was on October the dates now, the 18th, I believe. And at that time, residents were there, and the planning board heard the request, and they chose to deny it. From there, the applicant went back. I believe they met with the property owners again. They came in, they met with staff. They met, I believe, with some elected officials, or reached out just to ask for feedback, and tried to incorporate concerns and issues from those meetings into their plan. So it came before you all originally in November, and at that time it was tabled, and it was tabled to the state. So that's how we got where we are. And through this whole process, they have been tweaking it, and trying to make those improvements, trying to make sure that they're meeting all of the concerns of the town.
Just kind of a process question. A new question, if you want. I mean, given that it was denied by the planning board and something in the past, would it make sense to send it back to the planning board for a vote, or is that something that you would do? I'm just asking a matter of procedures.
No.
I think that legally, only if the plan changed significantly does it require going back. So little tweaks they make here and there. But if it was something all of a sudden now there's a commercial aspect or something, a major change is the only thing that triggers it by statute to go back. I mean, you all can do what you want and things like that at any time, but that's the thing.
I guess that's the question I was asking, is that we could elect to send it back to the planning board.
Any other questions? Just discussion now, public hearing is closed.
Can I make one more comment before we wrap up? Just
Sure.
kind of go back on one other thing I wanted to note out when we're talking about saving neighbors. You know, you got single family down here, commercial up here. This townhome development with the fence on the side would provide a good buffer for when that commercial property does develop, that you're not gonna have commercial right against single family. This kind of stages your way up as you go up, as that good mix as you have in. And then the 46 units compared to the 92 units that you have on the side is very minimal of what we're asking. And if you look at the elevations on that one, you'll see the bigger front porches and things like that that they didn't have on the 92 units that we're offering on the 46 units. So it's kind of add that you fit in there that when you're looking for commercial single family, this does kind of add a little bit more buffer in there. They're trying to help out Vicky Lane in the future development.
Mayor, I'm not going to support that. I don't know enough about it. I'm concerned about the planning board decision. I'm concerned about the impact of the neighbors. I'm willing to reconsider it with more time and a better plan on the quality. I'm just not comfortable. I also would say, not that we bank on the light rail station being in the area, and I would never say it should be there. However, and again, don't want to give the property owner advice, but my sense is a year from now we might be looking at a brand new, better value property here. That's another reason I'm kind of voting no on this.
Any other discussion, questions?
Can I sorry, just reply to that one, just sure. If you're thinking about the homeowner, so I'm doing down the road, this as a townhome, tax value would be better off for him than it is as a single family. So if they do come in and buy additional right of way later on, after this is rezoned, he'll actually get more money for his land than it is if it stays as a single family. The value, the land value will increase because of this. So if it's for the homeowner later on, if they do come back and buy additional right of way if they need to, it will actually help that homeowner out to having this rezoning approved.
There's another question. So what kind of timing are you thinking about if this were to be approved tonight? How quickly would you be breaking ground and moving dirt there?
I would say between 6 months. We'll have to go through and get CDs fully approved all the way out, and then I think as soon as CDs are approved, we would plan to start construction at that time. So you're talking about 6 months to get CDs approved, and then 6 months to a year for construction. So 18 months, which will build out, not vertical, but horizontal.
I'm really struggling with this one too, because this is one of the few areas that I really support high density development.
Yeah, especially with right next to the hospital, and again, it's not apartments coming in, it's that mix from not having an apartment, but still at least having some density for the new hospital going in and residents being able to
And I appreciate the changes you've made to improve the quality, and I know you've got a pretty big capital investment here already, just, well, not capital, but just getting through this process, you have to spend a good bit of money as a developer. So, I hate to be, casual about making this decision. I'm struggling.
Okay. I was involved, I can't remember if it was from the beginning. Well, yeah, it was on the DA. It's hard to remember all the DAs, but I've been on this from a long time, and I agreed with the planning board when they said that. I was not happy with the quality that I had initially seen through the process, but as presented tonight, and I've seen, I think a document or two come through. I think the concerns the planning board had and the development community had are taken care of now. The quality of the project is, I think, quite a bit higher quality level than it was before. I was also on the DA across the street, and I kept looking at one and then looking at this one. I'm thinking, wow, this one needs help. And I think you guys have brought it up to where it would be a good piece and a good fit in that particular location. And you hit it on the head. It's a good transition from commercial to townhomes to single-family homes. So it would not have a commercial piece abutting against the residents there. I'm in favor.
Any other comments, discussion? All right. What's the pleasure of the board? Go back to planning board, approve, Ms. Martin?
I would make the motion to deny CZ 190901.
Motion by Mr. Martin to deny. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Grooms. All in favor of the motion to deny the petition, raise your hand. That would be 4. Right, Mr. Martin, Ms. Richardson, Ms. Grooms, and Ms. Ayers, is that correct? All opposed? Mr. Scholl and Ms. Paxton opposed, so the motion to deny the application is approved. So as far as what his options are, it's going to go back to planning board on his own and start over?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, I had to check.
Gentlemen, appreciate y'all bringing this opportunity to Stallings, and hope you try again. Thanks.
Thank everyone for having us here tonight.
Next up is the Ottawa.
Okay. We still have to adopt the statement of reasonable inconsistency. But on the very last paragraph, make sure you change that to recommended space.
All righty. Conditional zone outrated for the record 19.09.01 request was for conditional zoning on property located at 2916 Matthews Indian Trail Road in parcel 07126043A to allow for the development of a 46-unit townhome project. Statement of consistency and reasonableness. Stallings Town Council hereby finds that the proposed conditional zoning request is inconsistent with the 2017 Stallings Comprehensive Land Use Plan adopted November 27, 2017, based on consistency with goals and objectives set forth in the document for the creation of development that protects existing neighborhoods. At their January 13, 2020 Stallings Town Council voted to recommend denial of the proposed conditional zoning, stated that the Town Council finally determined that the rezoning is inconsistent with the key guiding principles, goals, and objectives of of the comprehensive land use plan and hereby recommends it's denied. All right, can I get a motion to accept the statement of consistency and reasonableness?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Richardson, all in favor? That would be 5, all opposed, Paxton opposed. Thank you, Melvin. We don't need to do the ordinance. All right, next up is the Ottawa Road widening. Alex, you want to lead us off here?
Yes, sir, Mayor. May I ask your permission to take the podium to pull up some maps?
Sure.
Thank you. So, DOT Ottawa Road widening project, Project U 4913. It's a project that's no stranger to us. This is a project that the town has been working with and debating and having a dialogue with the DOT for well over a year now. I do want to recognize members of our working committee here have made that commitment to work with DOT on this. Councilmember Paxton, Town Engineer Chris Easterly, and Town Planning Director Lynn Harrell. Thank you all for your leadership and efforts on this. We've gone back and forth with the DOT, and on several different occasions the town has expressed concern about the various conceptual designs that the DOT has provided to the town. And long story short, we most recently discussed this on October 28th. The DOT was seeking to have a conversation with the council to see if any of the conceptual options that the DOT had presented most recently to the town would be preferable to the town. Those options were first a conventional 6-lane divided intersection with a traditional intersection at Stevensville and Ottawa Road intersection. The second option was a 6-lane conventional intersection with a reduced conflict intersection at that same intersection. And then finally a one-way pair alternative. And during our last discussion with the one-way pair alternative was eliminated by the council, which left the following two options, and the DOT requested that the council try to let DOT know by February which of the options would be preferable. I think we're at the point where some of the options aren't perfect, as far as feedback we've gotten from the council. But the DOT is asking for decisions on which of these options would be preferable. I'm happy to load up any of the maps so y'all can see the various options to walk through. Would that be helpful? Or
Heather and Stephen, y'all see them?
I would like to see the roundabout, because I don't think when the DOT special meeting was held that was seen, mostly focused on the.
Yeah, well, they're not asking anything about the roundabout. They can do that. Oh, you're talking about the Stevensville?
This is the Iowa and Stallings.
So I can't clarify that. So there is a roundabout project. It's not within the town limits, so it's in Matthews.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
And they're going to do that. That makes absolute sense. But, if we did nothing, Alex, they're going to do the 6-lane traditional highway, right? A traditional intersection.
Yeah, certainly the DOT can always move forward with a project without our input. They have that option. So there is a possibility that if we don't give the preference, we'd be getting even worse preference. I did want to mention, I heard some stormwater concerns on the email from Mr. Ball and residents of Vickery about what kind of a number of lanes would have on stormwater in the area. So I have requested to DOT for this better understanding of how stormwater will be addressed, and hopefully pass that on to the council.
Okay, and then all of our years of dealing with DOT, I don't think I've ever heard them address any concern about stormwater. So I don't know if they don't care or not, but I appreciate Mr. Paul bringing that to our attention because it is a concern. Increasing that 2-lane, 6-lane, how much runoff's going to be created. So.
Yeah, everybody, can I make a comment? Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that once it goes hardscape, the volume and the velocity go up exponentially. So if we're going from 2 lanes to 4, and now I'm hearing 6, the lane, the cut sections on these roads are about 110 feet wide. And if you drive down Idlewild and go to the bottom of the hill, where the drainage channel that runs right through the east side of Vickery runs, everything off that road feeds that channel. That's a lot of water right now flooding lots that are within 6 inches of the minimum floodplain elevation. That's with the current water volume we've got. The road gets built, the water increases, the minimum floodplain elevation is irrelevant.
So Alex, they're asking for a decision in February. Let's see if they give us a response to the email that you sent them about the stormwater.
And I'd like to know if Chris has any recommendations for them, not just wait for them to come back, but for us to say something proactively to them of what are you going to do? Because we've got 2 66-inch culverts going down to Crooked Creek in a very small drainage channel with an enormously flat area surrounding it. So once that little small channel fills up, the water goes this way. And it does that already. So please do something to make sure they don't worsen the problem.
So that would be my recommendation, Council. Let's wait to see what DOT comes back to. Just send it today or Friday. And let's see what they come back. Let Chris talk with DOT. And let's put it back on the agenda for the 27th. Thank you.
I just had one quick question for Alex. And maybe I kind of misspoke earlier, but was there ever a discussion about why we have a roundabout at where it is here on this map and not a roundabout at Stevens Mill in Iowa? Was that ever a discussion?
Yes, sir, Councilmember Ayers. I believe the response was the traffic volumes at Ottawa and Stevens Mill was significantly higher, and a roundabout at the area of Matthews there that you see could accommodate the traffic and handle the traffic, whereas at the Ottawa and Stevens Mill intersection it could not. I think another, let me pull this up because I think it would be helpful to understand. I believe another, zoom in here, so please have patience with me. There's also some pragmatic barriers the DOT had educated us on.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and I think that's where you're going to answer my question is because of the substation there in the church land. Okay, I was just curious whether or not it had, if there was any, if that was ever explored. Thank you.
Everybody all right putting this on the plate for DOT and then let Chris take a look at it?
Yes.
On the 27th.
They're not ready to fund it at this point, so we got time.
No, they're broke.
They're broke.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds like they're going to put a pipe in.
I'm okay.
All right.
Chris, what are your thoughts at the conceptual level? When they come back, what kind of things should we be asking for? Any general thoughts, or you just want to kind of wait and see what they say and go from there?
I like to wait and see what they say and go from there.
Sounds good.
Alex, one more point. The issue that I brought up was, if you zoom in on this picture right here, where it says SD Masonry, Inc., right below
Sorry,
that,
Mr. Ball, where are you?
This is right here. The wooded area, this is Vickery.
Right.
Sure. So they're in their public meeting on July of 2019, they present 3 slides with a proposed or conceptual layout. And this is July 2019, they're presenting it, but they're using 2015 aerial photographs. And that entire area is 55 homes with hardscape and drainage in it that's already struggling. So everything that's being talked about is as though Vickery doesn't exist. And that's problematic to me.
Oh, yeah, we'll make sure they're aware.
Okay.
So, thank you, Chris. All righty, next up is, thank you, Alex.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Martin, the UDO, number 8.
Yeah, so more than anything, I wanted to ask council if everyone is on board with asking staff to investigate ways for us to kind of increase the green space we save here in town, reduce some of the flooding issues we have here in town for future development, and kind of a backdoor way of ensuring we have higher quality development. And doing that primarily by removing the any floodplains or wetlands from the plottable area for new development coming in. So it just comes up, and Vickery's, unfortunately, it's good timing because it's a very relevant example. There's lots in there that are plotted out that are well within the 100-year floodplain and touching on wetlands. And if we have these by right developments or even some conditional developments, we want to make sure that we're not inadvertently creating a problem for a future homeowner or contributing to a problem for a future homeowner. So wanted to ask the staff if everyone's on board with council, if everyone's on board with asking staff to take a closer look at this. I think it's an easy win for us to help keep Stallings a little more green. Reduce the problems.
Any questions for John? You know, I was on my first DA tonight with Stephen and David. They were certainly using the old calculations, we used the total land, so it came up to 8 units per acre. But really, if you took away the floodplain part of the unusable acres, it came up to 24 units per acre. So I think it's worth looking into myself.
So, Councilmember Martin, just so I can make sure the staff have the correct interpretation. So there's two things we're going to look at. First, draft some language to remove the floodplain from the plattable area, if you will. Folks can include those floodplains as part of a residential lot, essentially. And then the second thing is look at increasing green space requirements. I know we looked at that, tweaking that number a little bit. So just maybe coming back with some language and identifying the numbers and then coming back and seeing what we want to set that number at.
All right, I heard, I just want to get a consensus on that, so, all right, so we got a consensus on that, Alex, thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Could we also, in exploring this, look at how other towns do this? Because when we had the thing with the county commissioners, I think Wesley Chapel, I believe, and possibly Weddington already take out the floodplain area in their calculations. So I'd be interested to see how our other neighboring towns are handling this, because it will possibly be very different from the developer. Let that make the decision. I agree with John that it's probably an opportunity to get some better quality development and reduce the density, which we all kind of agree to look at, possibly.
All right. And then
I've actually seen like drop square, so like any drop square, the density cannot go over that particular ratio in other areas.
Did the second one beat fence regulations? What was your idea?
So when we created the UDO in 2017, I believe we inadvertently left off some language that was previously in the UDO specific to having the finished side of the fence facing outward from the lot. So if you drive down Stevens Mill Road right now, there's a new fence there that has the finished side facing the home and the unfinished side. And it's a small aesthetic thing, but I think just taking it back to the old language and having the finished side facing externally facing the neighbors, it makes it a little better for the community aesthetics. So it shouldn't cost anybody any money. It's just feel and look.
Can I get a consensus on having staff look at that? Everybody okay?
Mayor Dennis, if I may ask Ms. Harris thoughts on that. Ms. Harris, do you feel like you have a good understanding of that?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. And just to go back to the first point there, so what I've got on my notes is draft language for removing the floodplain in the plattable area of residential lots. Secondly, increase green space requirements. We'll draft some language for that. And then thirdly, research how surrounding areas calculate densities as far as floodplain. Correct.
All right, and then, Alex, at the government training on Friday, I did learn, that the agenda is not required, that, you can move it around any way you want, so I forgot to give you your chance to do your report. So, what do you have for us? Anything that you want to?
No, sir, I think y'all have taken all the good stuff, and I don't want to stand in the way of Councilman Ayers and the Clemson football team tonight. So.
Oh, okay. So we want to make sure that we're.
Just a real quick question. I hear the UDO used a lot. My understanding is the UDO is the ordinance that expired in 2018.
Can we address it after the meeting?
Hit me up,
It's simple.
All right. All right, number 9, can I get a motion to go into closed session? We don't, also learned we don't need to, according to, what's her last name? Freda.
Oh, Freda Bluestone?
She just says you can just make a motion to go into closed session, it doesn't matter what the pursuant.
No, she did say you have to do the pursuant.
Oh.
It's like, hey, this number is hard to remember. There's only a few of them.
Oh, okay. I was wrong.
You're correct. The model, I think UNC school government's model policies don't require a second.
Oh, don't require a second. That's it. Can I get the motion? Closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318.11.86.
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Shaw. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. All right. Let's go ahead and move into the back. Yeah, don't worry about it.